If you're a musician who's trying to figure out what is the absolute best way you could grow your business without having to continue giving more of your time and feeling that you're reaching a ceiling in terms of your income, in terms of your capacity, in this episode, I'm going to share with you why the model you choose for your business can make or break your scalability and can be ultimately the most important thing in everything you're doing as a musician. Because if you're working in a way that's going to keep you trapped, no matter how much effort you put in, no matter how much you grow that model, ultimately you're going to reach a ceiling. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Musicians Creating Prosperity podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Fabiana Claure. And in today's episode, I want to dive into something that I've really been talking all along in my podcast since I launched it, but I feel like I keep talking to musicians who are in this hamster wheel of trying to grow their businesses, following the traditional models, and feeling that the answer to their solutions, especially as it relates to growing their income, is just more of what they have already been building, more students, more gigging opportunities, more production opportunities. And instead of that, what I want to highlight and share with you why I feel so strongly about this is that rather than just continuing to grow your music business the way you've been programmed, right, to think you need to grow it through just getting more visibility, more marketing, more growth in the model you're currently working, why you need to take a step back and reevaluate how are you actually serving your clients? If everything you're doing for your clients or your students, whoever you work with, depends on you needing to be in front of them or producing services, products, anything that requires your physical time and attention, this is going to ultimately keep you stuck. You may not see it when you're just thinking short term, but what I want to empower you and encourage you to explore with me today is why looking at models where you can focus on teaching what you do and guiding others and sharing your process, basically a model where you are mentoring, you're consulting, you are providing a framework, and over time building a platform for people to access that system. This is why I believe is the ultimate way you will be able to scale your knowledge, your business, and create freedom in your life. Because when you're able to switch from either done for you services like producing albums for other artists, managing other artists, teaching one-on-one with your students, working one-on-one as an educator, or depending on performances where unless you're physically on stage, you cannot earn an income, or anything that has to do creating products, right? Creating merchandise, building like assets, if you will, that always require you to stop and create that thing every time you make a sale. If you can switch that way of thinking that that's what it is, that's how you should work as a musician, and instead join me in exploring the models that musicians are now using to create unlimited earning potential and take back full control of their time, which are models where you are serving as a consultant. Even if you've never really taught what you're doing, you just done it, right? And I hear that a lot from musicians who say, well, I don't really know exactly, like how I do this. I've just done it for such a long time, or I've done it for people. I'm not exactly sure what my system is. Do not let that stop you from pursuing this model and looking for ways in which you could restructure the way you're currently working and explore, rather than doing things for your clients, rather than needing for them to be face to face with you in order to get results. What if you could take a step back and commit to building a framework or to decodifying your process and to doing it in a way where you're not necessarily sitting in an isolated situation trying to figure everything out in a container, in a vacuum, and trying to just create a bunch of videos and create handouts and create templates and systems in isolation, but instead realize that the more you can be in touch with your clients, the more you can share with your community, with your audience, who you are, what you do, why you're in this process of evolution, and why you are committed to sharing your knowledge and finding a way to decodify your systems, your process, the things you do that come to you very naturally, intuitively, organically, if you will, the more you can invite people to just be part of that transformation with you. You do not need to step back and find the time and create all this materials and videos and hours and hours and hours of production in isolation, trying to sell once again a finished product. But instead, what I'm encouraging you, if you're open to reevaluating how you work, is to actually bring your audience with you in the journey, so that as you interact with them, whether it's in the initial phase of content creation, building that awareness, creating that visibility, or whether it later becomes the actual delivery of the service, it's about really bringing them into the process with you, so that you can actually respond to what they're asking from you, and you can listen to their challenges, you can listen to the things they tell you about what they're struggling with, and you can be in an active creative mode of responding to your audience and building that framework and decodifying your systems based on what they're asking from you. Now, does this mean you're going to simply share with your community that you're building something and be completely flexible to whatever they want from you? That's not the way to go either. I like to see this as you creating an initial definition of what you want to help people achieve. What is the main problem that you want to help people solve, so that it can create that framework, that context for the conversation to happen. Otherwise, if you just open yourself up to your audience and say, hey, I'm here to help, like, who wants this? And like, I'm here to do whatever for anyone, it's not going to be specific enough and clear enough for you to get that strong response. So there needs to be a clear messaging statement that you create first, that creates that background context of why you're doing this, why you're wanting to change the way you're working, why you're wanting to evolve and break down a system and a process to bring people in with you to help through a more of a consultancy, a mentorship, a teaching knowledge, rather than to continue doing things for others or building things for others or producing things for others or managing others. I speak with a lot of musicians and creatives who are heavily involved in managing other artists or producing music for other artists or creating all these products and services. And basically every time they have a new opportunity, they have a new sale, they have a new client, they have to take all these steps and put a lot of time and effort. And they're happy to do it because they see it as growth, right? And I understand. And especially if you love doing that, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. But I'm here to tell you that the longer you keep trying to just do that type of work, the harder it's going to be for you to scale your life, your business, your time, to win back what matters most to you, and to have an income model that doesn't have any ceiling. You will always hit a ceiling. The more people you take on, the more opportunities you say yes to, the more you're giving your time away, and the sooner you're going to reach that ceiling. So don't let yourself be tempted or fooled by the fact that you enjoy the work. I understand how important it is to pursue your passion and to do things that you love. But the good news is that when you incorporate this educational model, think of it as an educational model, a model where you are sharing your process with others. And you're building that process as you develop it, as you interact with your audience, right? When you have that additional model, okay, let's just not see it as a complete replacement, but let's see it as a complement, an addition, okay? When you have that separate income stream that does not depend on your time and that depends on you being able to interact with people, right? To respond to people, to have, let's say, a weekly group session where people can come and ask you questions. You can be available to solve problems on the spot, right? In a group setting. And also where within those first 10, 15 minutes, let's say you can create a training, you can build a series of videos that are in response to what your clients are asking from you. They're interactive, they're delivered live. And over time, those videos can be put into some sort of a library, a resource setting in a community where anyone that comes into your world can go right into those materials and start binging on your content and learning about your frameworks and learning about your systems. And then if they end up working with you in a more intimate capacity, then they can come and ask you questions in your weekly group call that you already have in place. You do not need to allocate an extra hour of availability every time a new client comes in, because when you build this educational model, you are creating a container, a platform that you build it once, and then it continues existing forever. And you're able to monetize it in multiple ways with no income ceiling and no expiration date. The important thing, though, is to realize that when you consider building this type of model, you're not necessarily saying no to the other things you were doing, right? I see a lot of tension in this process when I speak with musicians about adding this to what they're doing, because somehow it feels like you're quitting the other things. And I want you to know that that doesn't have to be the case. You are able to create this additional income stream while still preserving the other things that you're doing, following the traditional music models. The only benefit that I'm highlighting when you have this additional income stream is that your income is no longer trapped to that type of time for money situation. Now, if you choose to manage another artist, if you choose to create a record, if you choose to go on tour, if you choose to take one-on-one clients or do in-person performances or whatever you want to do where you'll still be trading your time, you'll have the option to choose what you say yes to without like needing the income 100% from that. And you can get yourself in a position where you can be more selective of the people that you work with, of the things you say yes to, of the places you go, and everything you're bringing into your life because of this new and scalable educational model that gives you more of a financial stability, right? An opportunity to not continue feeling the need to say yes to every time for money opportunity that falls on your lap. Now you can actually evaluate, what do you really want to do? And there's nothing wrong with continuing to do some of that, right? What I'm encouraging you to explore is making sure that you do not just put all your eggs in that model and you just think, oh, this is the only way I can grow as a musician is by doing more and more of the same. Like I have clients who have come from that additional model. They were initially working in the traditional model. Like I can think about my client, Lenore, who was working, teaching one-on-one lessons, who was conducting a choir, who was doing the traditional types of jobs that most musicians do. And when she built her online business, it completely surpassed her income potential. And she realized really quickly that like everything else she was doing was far, far, far away in comparison in terms of how much she could generate per hour, if you will, or based on her time compared to her online business. And she struggled with like, what do I keep and what do I let go of? Because financially, there is no point of comparison. What she makes in her online voice teaching program. And if you haven't heard her story, she's in one of our episodes. Just look for Lenore Oren. And she was one of our clients that we kind of broke down what her transformation looked like and how she switched from the way she was teaching voice and what we helped her kind of do and scale. So you can look back through the podcast episodes and just look for Lenore Oren. And we had a really great conversation. So it's in one of the episodes in my podcast. But at any rate, coming back to this, she was asking now, how does she manage all the other things that she's doing? And I encouraged her to keep what she really feels passionate about while trying to re-strategize, the things that take too much time. So for example, managing her choir, something she loves. And I thought, that's a great thing. If you love having that in-person experience, going and conducting your choir, having that face-to-face connection with other singers and contributing and building those relationships, by all means, keep doing that. But all the administrative work, the behind the scenes work, the day-to-day tasks of managing and running the choir, try to outsource those to someone else. And she did. And so she gets to have the best of both worlds. Now she gets to choose what are those opportunities that she can actually keep, even if she's legitimately not really generating any like money compared to the way she can generate it through her online program. But she still does it because she loves it. And I think that's still very important. You should do what you love, but you need to find an income stream and a business model that gives you the freedom to choose. And that's what this is all about. So I want to encourage you, in my case, I continue performing every once in a while and doing things as a pianist, but I know that I'm not expecting that income to be it, right? I have my online education business. I guide musicians around the world in restructuring the way they work. And I'm constantly pouring into developing the frameworks and the systems that I know can help musicians expedite their path and helping them do the same for their own clients, right? But then if I want to go and do a presentation or to do a performance or to record an album or to just create video content for my social media presence, anything that I want to do where I'm still expressing myself as a musician, as a pianist, I still do it. And I want to keep that part of my life. I just developed this additional model to supplement my income, to not put me in a position where I have to do these other things for my income and limit myself in terms of time. I've talked about this in many different ways throughout this podcast episode. This is my passion. This is what I really love sharing. But I wanted to help you reconcile any tension that you may feel if you are considering building this type of model. I know that sometimes it can feel like a bit of a mourning of your old way of working. And maybe you're feeling like you're quitting on what you used to do, or you're letting that go. And it could not be farther from the truth. You do not have to feel that sense of loss if you add this type of model into your kaleidoscope of offers. Instead, this is the actual foundation. Think of it as making sure you're building your house with a strong foundation, not on a house of cards, right? And so I hope you feel inspired to continue exploring this model. And if you have any questions and you would like to see how you could apply this more specifically in the way you work, perhaps you're doing multiple jobs right now, or you're working on different things, multiple side hustles, etc., or whatever you feel you need support on, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to connect and offer you some customized guidance. There should be a link in the show notes where you can book a call with either me or a member of my team. We would be happy to be able to show you in more depth and in your personalized way how you could apply this framework in your music business and in any way that you're currently working. So thank you again for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, let's prosper together.